Bizarre Brain Comics. Well, hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I am Gary, your host. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. And this time, I'm going to take a look at this book here. This is a copy that I've had for over 50 years. I bought it new on the stand. This is Superman number 260 from 1973, of course, DC Comics. And this is a story that pits Superman against a Viking. Well, against a Viking superhero. Actually, I think this the creation of this character was a way for them to pit Superman basically against Thor. You know, Marvel's Thor without any copyright infringement or being too close, even though they could have used their own version of Thor, as they have in the past. But that's just my personal opinion. I don't know anything about it. This is a story that was written by Elliot S. Maggin and drawn by Kurt Swan with inks by Murphy Anderson. In my opinion, they're one of the best creative teams on any of the Superman titles. And of course, Kurt Swan's my favorite Superman artist, and he's looks best with the Murphy Anderson inks. And for Elliot S. Maggin, he's written all kinds of stuff for DC, but he had a long run writing Superman, as well as having written 2 Superman novels. Those were in conjunction with the release of the Superman the Motion Picture and Superman 2. But they were original novels, not adaptations. And he wrote the novelization of the Kingdom Come maxi series of comics. But he converted the graphic novel to prose novel. And he wrote that. It is a fine job there. So he was accomplished. They were all accomplished in their field. Now, in this story, it's kind of unfortunate that it's as short as it was. This is one of my favorite issues. I just wish that the story had been a little bit longer. But and also has a backup story. But it's also one of my favorite stories for that too. I mention that when I get to it. But now let's dive into Superman 260, Keeper of the Eternal Flame. Oh, I like this great cover. I'm not sure who was this, Carrie Bates or not. I'm not sure. Not Carrie Bates. I meant. And now I'm suddenly drawing a blank, but it doesn't matter. You can see I had this when I was a kid. I wrote my name here. I even did some little doodles on the cover, and but it's great. This big boisterous Viking riding on the back of this giant falcon. That's cool. And it starts right in the middle. Was it continued from a previous issue? No. This is kind of the way I like mini stories to begin. Start off with the action, then give us the backstory. Because here's Superman, in a Viking village? And this lady said, no, they want to stone him. I said, no, he's a hero. He saved me, says this lovely young lady. And then it says, then you get, by coming here, he committed a crime. However, as a hero, he deserves the right and honor of dying by the sword of Voldemort of the Flame. Oh, it's hard on my throat. Oh, and that's great. I love the way Voldemort is dressed and everything. It's just great. It goes right into it, and of course, Supes, not knowing the power level of this fellow, he stands there and boom, he whumps him a good one, and grabs his sword. But now his super speed goes into play, where he's faster, and he gets a little bit of an upper hand here on Voldemort. But then we have a flashback to how this began when Morgan Edge, president of Galaxy Communications, sends Clark Kent on basically a field trip to do a story. I think it's in Pennsylvania. Somewhere, it doesn't matter. To do a story on some kind of farming story, but he says take this, take Percy with you, Percy Bratton, who is an intern and the son of one of the major stockholders in the company. So he does. They get out there. You see him doing stories. Now this is some really good stuff, and stuff that I probably would not have thought of in the art here, because it's got all these trees and stuff. And so we get to see the shadowing of the leaves of the trees and stuff across Clark Kent's figure and the like. Now that's probably in actuality, to make a more solid, dense black to bring his figure into the foreground. I understand that, but it's a nice touch because, in this country, there's going to be shadows all over the place. They hear it when they're finished there. They hear what sounds like a scream, and somewhere and they think, oh, it must be just be hearing something, because they're out on a farm, all kinds of noises. And he distracts Percy with the farmer's daughter, and he takes off because he spotted this girl being menaced by these bears. And well, it's odd. She's dressed so oddly, and he, without injuring the bears, he shoos them away quite handily. But then she, keeper of the eternal flame, return me to Valhalla, and whoosh, go up in a column of flame, and she is gone. What the heck? So here they are. I'll have to try to check it out later. And they're driving along a road in the mountains, and there's this valley, and the valley is just totally shrouded in fog. But without realizing it, he was using his supervision. He comments on seeing a village down there. Well, Percy can't see that. Uh-oh, I made a boo-boo. He needs to check it out. So he uses his heat vision secretly to give him a flat tire, have Percy change the tire, and he slips off as Supes to check out this village down there. And he sees all these people dressed like Vikings. They're riding giant badgers, and they're hunting giant rats. Well, what's going on? He gets down to the village where there's this huge column of flame right in the middle of the center of the village. The lady recognizes him, and then this takes us back to where the story began, and with Supes in battle with Valdemar, and Valdemar tries to get Supes again. Well, he takes off with a whistle. Here comes this giant golden falcon, and he rides that. So Supes takes him on a little, but this falcon is so big, and they're going so fast, people really can't notice them. But this falcon is so huge, it's stirring up all kinds of winds with his wings. I think that's would be a little overstated. I doubt if the wings could whip up that much of a storm, but still, no one saw it. But I think Percy got a little bit of footage here, then back down into the valley, where using a little bit of super speed, he turns the tables momentarily, and then gets Voldemort off the bird, and they go crashing down into the earth, causing earth tremors all around in the area there, down underground, fighting. And he using his supervision to see that there's some kind of column, like some special gas or something, going right to that flame. And he deduces somehow Voldemort is getting his power from that flame, hence the name Keeper of the Eternal Flame. So he douses that flame, sucks it up, and then spits it off into space. Voldemort loses his strength. He acknowledges his defeat, and offers his sword and said, by the laws of Valhalla, you have won the right to make any request of us. And finds out that Voldemort's not bad. He's a good man. He says, I have no request other than that you call me friend. That's all he really wanted, to be friends. And so they are become friends. Supes takes off, and using his heat vision, reignites the eternal flame. Whoosh! And Voldemort, that's great. A great stance right there. And Voldemort is again the keeper of the eternal flame. And he then back in Metropolis, for a little bit while the flame was gone, the mists started to clear up, and Voldemort and Percy got the videotape. Shot a little bit of footage. And that wasn't videotape; it was on film at that time. This is '73, and so he accidentally ruins the footage and walks off because he doesn't want anybody to find it. And I really like this. Voldemort showed up at least 2 or 3 more times later. I really liked the character. I'd like to have seen more of him, and. But it was a fun story, and you seldom see a story that well crafted by both writer and artists that is this short. You just don't see that anymore. Then our backup story is The Fabulous World of Krypton, again written by Elliot S. Maggin, and with art by Bob Brown and Dave Cockrum. Cockrum must have been doing the inks, and you can see little hints of his art style in here. And this is also one of my favorite stories from the world of Krypton. This is sometime, obviously, before the destruction of Krypton. Archaeologists are doing some exploring, and they find the cyclo blade and these artifacts anyway, and it ties into a story. And then we hear the story of in ancient times. This is when the two tribes are going have raised champions and have these special weapons, and they're going to defend their own people, and the loser is to go off, and they will die, because this is how this happens. Now, this is a little interesting thing. Here at this time in their history, Krypton was tidally locked with their sun. That is, one side always faced the sun, the other side was in eternal darkness. And this left the planet almost uninhabitable, except for a twilight ring completely around the planet. Now, This is interesting, because just in the last 20 years or so, an exoplanet very similar to this has been discovered. I can't remember what they name. It's a string of letters and numbers that is very similar to this. It is considerably larger than Earth, maybe the size of Krypton, and it is in tidal lock. And scientists have speculated that if there were life. This is just if, not saying there is. If there were life on that planet, as we know it, it would only be able to exist in that twilight ring between the light side and the dark side. And so in this story, these two tribes have been in constant conflict because resources are scarce, and the loser will have to go to the dark side where they will perish. And that's the whole point behind this combat. So the two guys are fighting, and they have their own, and they're having their own thoughts and reflecting on how they were raised specifically for this combat. Although people had to sacrifice to give them enough food to be strong and powerful. So they're fighting, and they got these weird specialized weapons, and fight. And they're fighting, and they're on this particular boulder, and while they're struggling, the metal of the two types of weapons come in contact with one another. It's some kind of unique metal, and it causes the boulder that they are fighting on to start spinning. And they both realize that, because they both have been wanting to come up with a way to end this peacefully, some kind of compromise where both their peoples could live peacefully and coexist. And they come up with the idea. They get these two specific metals. They got two different places on the planet, on different ends of the planet, and they fill these caverns with these two metals. And then when they're put together, they cause the entire planet to spin faster, giving giving the planet its rotation, allowing the entire planet to prosper and spring forth with life. And of course, this was many millennia before the destruction of Krypton. So I really like that story, and so that is why this particular issue is one of my favorite issues of Superman from the Bronze Age. So that is all I have to share with you this time. So let me know what you think of this issue, Superman 260 from 1973. Let me know what you think of this or anything else like that. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave those comments down below. And remember, comics are art.